I'm honored to be invited to this gathering of extinguished people. I think that I am a little misplaced here because I'm not an historian. Basically, I am a car collector, and my wife wants me to be a stamp collector. So I'm a little misplaced, I think. I didn't remember that you were flying with me on the DC-3. I hope it was a nice flight, because the landings with the tail dragger is not very easy. I have done only some 100 landings with the tail dragger, and everyone is very exciting. My connection to this museum is that I was flying the DC-3 Daisy on the opening of this museum. We came in here and made a couple of loops, and then we were landing in maximum crosswind on that runway. So that was a challenge. Okay, here we go. We have one aircraft that we don't own. We have it on loan from this museum. It's the sister ship to the reconnaissance aircraft outside. And we have it at Arlanda Airport. And we have a small club that is called the Caravelle Club, Sweden. And I know that it is not grammatically correct. It should be Le Club Caravelle. But anyway, the guy who named it this, he's half French, so okay. He thought it was okay, so. And basically, we are two persons who really work with this. I'm the administrator. Ulf Nyström is the technical director, and he does all the work. We were hijacked into this organization. They challenged our positions, and they told us, okay, guys, 4 days a year, 2 in spring, 2 days in fall, that's all it is to it. Okay. Ulf, did you schedule 200 days a year? 200 days times 2 years, so 400 days for Ulf to keep this in shape. It was in really bad shape when we took over this club. This is the worst case of outdoor storage. This is a Metropolitan, Convair Metropolitan. I wouldn't say it is stored. It's sitting at Bromma Airport, and it has been there since 1977, and it's in that shape. That's our next project. Our best case is this, to have it inside somewhere, but we don't see how it will be accomplished. But this is our case. It is stored presently at the air side of Arlanda, and that means that the access is via the normal security procedures and the 10-minute walk. And we have visitors 50 times a year or something, and everyone will have to request prior permission. However, the staff at the airport is very interested and helpful, and in every way. Security staff, everyone is interested. And we are parked, and you can see here, between the big birds, and this is the Rolling Stones, Boeing 767, beside us. So we are in good company. Why do we keep a Caravelle? Why is it important? Because it's the only airliner that is kept in Sweden, and it represents a quantum leap, said there, in speed, comfort, and reliability. I mean, less vibration, less noise, you're leaving the noise behind you, flying high over the clouds, at a speed, Caravelle is doing about Mach 0.65 or something, 30,000 feet. and very little vibration. So but vibration could be interesting because in the old piston powered, there were vibrations from the engines, propellers and so on, but in the Caravelle, very little vibration, and that had the effect that the instruments, electromechanical instruments, sometimes you have to knock on those. So if you in those days asked the guy, what time is it? And he went like this, you're a Caravelle pilot. Must apologize for this lousy picture. What I will show is, this is 1959, 1986. And you see the big step. These are total hull losses. You see this step here, 1963. It is where jet aircraft became dominant. And then it is still diminishing. And today, if you say 10 up there, we are down at 0.8 here. Now we are down at 0.4 or something. That means that during this time, the safety has improved a factor of 10 or something. And if you scale that to today's traffic, it would mean if we had this kind of risk or safety level, it would mean that every year we had 150 to 200 aircraft losses, and many of them with fatalities. So the jet aircraft, the jet era, it represents a very large step towards higher safety. So that's important to know. The Caravelle is technically innovative. Hydraulic flight controls. There are no wires, only hydraulic lines. Like the later Airbus, they are electrically. Rear-mounted engines, rear stairway, like that. So those are very new items and features for the Caravelle. And the window design is interesting too, because we have the broader base down below. That means that you can have better visibility from the cabin on the ground. And it's also an example of UK-France cooperation. This is the Havilland Comet. And in fact, the nose section is bolt-on from Comet to Caravelle. It's the same cockpit. And it's also the embryo to Airbus Industry and Airbus 321 and this ugly one. So it's interesting just to keep the Caravelle. And it was also the premier jetliner with SAS in 1959. And it's beautiful, isn't it? So that's why we try to keep this one. We keep this Caravelle in serviceable condition, and that's important. That's interesting, because we try to keep all systems go. This example was delivered to SAS in '66 and then to the Swedish Air Force. It was only 5 years when it went into the Air Force, so it was a new one. And then to the Air Force Museum in '99 and on. And we was given right of disposition and the storage agreement in '99. Le Caravelle Club, it was founded in '99, and we have cooperations with this museum, of course, Flygsamlingarna, Arlanda, and National Heritage Board. Swedavia, Arlanda. We have 180 members and a very tiny budget of 2,500 100 euros. So we don't have much money. However, we have 8 containers of spare parts at Arlanda. And we bought, the club bought those from the Air Force for 1 krona back in 1999 or something. And that is a problem because what do? They are crowded with boxes, with flaps, leading edges, wheels, landing gear, and so on. We can't even get into some of those. So that's a problem to have all those containers. And we have 3 spare engines. At least 2 of them are serviceable. And who needs a Rolls-Royce even today? If you have a Hawker Hunter, maybe. We have ground equipment. I don't know how they got in possession of all these equipment, but they are a problem. We have got rid of some of them, but still we have very much items that are surplus that we don't need. We have sold some of them or leased out. That fuel truck was a big headache during the spring. It was at the airside of Arlanda. And Swedavia Arlanda, they were more and more pushy that we should get rid of it. And we couldn't give it, we couldn't sell it, we couldn't do anything with it, because just think of that one on the street. You fill it with some kerosene, you have a hand grenade or something, or igniting thing in it, and just drive it into a crowd or something. So that was a real headache. We got rid of it to a scrapyard. Yeah, we have an office at Arlanda. It's by goodwill by SAS. Ulf is a great negotiator, and he has a network that is very, very broad at Arlanda and at SAS. So we have this office at our disposal. The aircraft itself, we have displayed it in 3 motion pictures. The latest one was last summer, the movie about Ted Gärdestad, and that's from those recordings. And before that, another documentary of a Swedish singer, and also a Finnish production earlier on. So this gives us some economic compensation. The aim of this Le Caravelle Club was from the beginning to keep the aircraft in flying condition. That's why we have all the spare parts, the engines and so on. However, since 2003, there is no type certificate, so it is not possible any longer to get it in flying condition. But still, we try to make all the maintenance and repair to flight standards. And it should be ready to taxi on the tarmac. I think that will be within a month or so. And we try to, the goal is to restore it to its exterior that it was when it entered SAS, and shown to public, which is not easy today when it is at airside. It is important that all volunteers and visitors, they be informed of safety rules and covered by insurance, because we will be responsible if something happens. And much can happen on an airport or in an aircraft. I mean, people can can fall from the stairways and something. And also that the aircraft must be insured too against damage, theft and third-party damage. We have not had any problems with theft or vandalizing or something like that. So it's we hope it can still be that. Yeah, competent and professional management is crucial, and what I mean with this is that all guys that are working on it should be technicians, preferably certified technicians, and as long as we are inside the airport, we can easily get technicians that are interested, certified, and available. And I think that will also be possible when we are later being outside of the airport fence. The last bullet about internal conflicts and diverging interests, basically that was why Ulf and I were captured into this, because there were deep conflicts in this club. And that was also a reason for the aircraft being mishandled during the latest 5 or 6 years. It's sitting on a gravel surface at Arlanda. And we don't pay anything. We haven't got any requirements to pay for the parking. If we do that, we're out of business, I would say. And also we have electricity that we don't pay for. So we're happy to look for that. The wheels are on the gravel surface, placed on steel plates. And outside the steel plates, the wheels will sink about 30 millimeters per year. And that's a problem when we try to move the aircraft, because we connect the tow bar, and the tow bar is connected with the 3 shear pins, and those will break if the wheels have sunk. So that's why we have the steel plates. Right now, a dedicated parking area is being prepared outside the fence at the land side. It's very near the collection, the Arlanda collection of aircraft, Flygvapenmuseum. And we hope that this will be finished in January, when we have to move the aircraft to that place. And that's good and that's bad, because inside, at the air side, we can easily be towed into a hangar and have maintenance done there. When we are outside, this will be more of a problem. They have promised that the fence between this area and the air side would be fence that you can more or less easily remove and go away with the aircraft into the air side. But at the same time, when you do that, you have to do a security check. Every part of the aircraft must be inspected. Bellies and all compartments and so on must be checked by security personnel, and that takes some time, and probably will be some cost for it too. But anyway, in the long run, this is much better, because we can show it for the public. The museum, the Arlanda Flygsamlingarna, can show it for the public, and we can use a lot of guys that can work on it on other times. Retired people can go and come as they wish, without the security screening of problems that we have today. They call it a scrapyard, but I hope they don't expect us to be scrapped. There are some other aircraft that will be standing there too, but they are absolutely in the scrap. Ulf, vill du säga något? You want to add something? We can say that, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have any great problems with corrosion. The outside is in very good shape. The only thing is that we see, you can see that there are stripes from rain and acid rain or whatever it is, but there are no corrosion damages outside. So that's good, okay. We have electrical supply, we have ventilation, we have no smell of mold inside. It's very fresh inside. We're keeping temperature of some 5 degrees or something all year round. And humidity is low, so it works very well. Gear struts tend to sink, and we don't have that you have on your Caravelle, the collars that support the gear, but we don't have those. Or maybe we have them in the containers, we don't know. So we fill them regularly with the help of SES staff. Flight controls should be restrained, yes, because winds are high sometimes at an airfield, as you know, and start to flutter. Inlets and openings, we keep them covered. We have no problem with birds' nests or mice or things alike in the plane. So that works very well. We have to inspect it regularly, of course, to check for collision, which has not been a problem, leaking shock absorbers and such. And we use the pre-flight checklist for pilots as a good routine to start and do the walk-around check. And also the movable surfaces should be moved regularly to keep ceilings and such in good shape. So that works very well. You can see on the fin there's a Finnair marking, and when it was in that Finnish film Kapari, it was marked with Finnair on the upper fuselage. We removed that last summer. It took some, 100 hours or something? Yeah. But still the fin is left, and we can't do it because we need a sky lift, and the sky lift is not allowed to be used on the gravel surface. And also that you have got to have a certificate to use the sky lift. So that will be when we are towed into the hangar, which will be in a couple of weeks, we hope. Inside, we have opened the outlets, the original outlets, and let the air conditioning go that way. And as I said, there is no problem with mold or moist or something between the walls and behind the panel, so it's okay. It looks very fresh, and I think it smells very fresh too inside. Yeah, we have a unit that is connected continuously. Yeah, that's what we said. You see, we have still the Air Force marking on the engine nacelle, and that one is painted, so it's very hard to get rid of it. And the cockpit, isn't it nice? It's very roomy cockpit compared to the American aircraft of the same time. You can have the yoke or the steering column comes up from left at the wall, goes up 45 degrees, and then you have the steering wheel. That means that you can sit in a normal way, like this, because it comes up like this. Not on the Boeing sometimes they have to sit this way. And also, it is wide on the side. You can place your cup of coffee, which is very important. Oh, that's no joke. When you fly 10 or 12 hours or 14 hours that pilots do today, you must have a possibility to eat and to drink during flight. And you can also have a lap tray and eat in this way. If you fly the Boeing, there is nothing. You can't even place a coffee cup there. There's no place to do it. You have this column, you have to sit like this. And if you see on the later the Airbus is the 320 and in that series and on, you have the side stick and you have the tray that you can pull out and you place your food or everything or anything on that. Or the manuals they have to consult if there is any problem, you can easily read it. So that's a big difference. Lot? I'm an Airbus guy. Ulf is a Boeing guy. Isn't it nice, the cockpit, when the lights are on? Another thing we have to do here is when the Air Force used the aircraft as a reconnaissance aircraft, they threw out all the light tubes because they could produce radio interference, and they substituted that by light bulbs. So in the cabin ceiling, we have 2 rows of light bulbs. You don't see them. It looks like light tubes or something, but there are more than 200 light bulbs in the ceiling. And altogether, let's say 400 or 500 light bulbs in that aircraft. Yeah, I can say something about that picture below. These are the batteries. There are 6 batteries and one emergency battery. And they were out of service when we took over this aircraft. We had them restored at SAS at Arlanda. And we also had to change some of the cells. But this is an area where you can, that visitors can hurt themselves or could produce some damage. So that's the thing that we have to keep in mind when we are taking more visitors to this. We had some problems with the hydraulic pipelines that you see to the right. There are 3 systems for flight controls, and one of those pipelines was leaking, not due to corrosion, but was a porous structure that was probably been there from the beginning. So we had a new one produced and installed, and we also exchanged another one that was not leaking but was bent in a way that it shouldn't be. The cells, they cost about 40% of our budget, so that's a problem too. Wow. The interior is, however, missing some parts that the Air Force were throwing out when they took over the aircraft. And that's basically galley, the forward galley and the aft galley. And also 2 toilets. We have 1 toilet left. It's a turquoise one. The other toilet is, and it should be pink. Pink colored. So we're trying to get hold of those items. I can tell in this small group that we know where we can get those things. but Ulf hasn't negotiated that yet. And there you can see the original light tubes in the ceiling. Also, we should like to have 3 abreast seats. We have only 2 plus 2. That's harder to get because people scrap those things and throw them away. However, the placards that we see on the bottom picture and also the Scandinavian markings on the side, we have a company that's promised to do those things for free for us. So that would be a minor problem. We have been on the roll, and could be a problem too because the modern trucks that fit in the nose wheel and lift it up, they don't fit because of the landing gear doors, the nose wheel. So you have to get hold of one of those old trucks, and also one of the driver that can drive the old one. So not everyone are competent on that one. And the shear pins that I mentioned, when we moved it last summer, the shear pins broke and we were stuck, fortunately, on the gravel surface where we are parked. But the problem is if those break on the taxiway, we close the airport more or less. So that must be fixed. We have produced new chair pins of better steel, and I hope that will be stronger. In 10 days or something, we're trying a new taxi to be towed into the hangar for a week. Weather protection, I think we have talked about that. Ceiling, cockpit windows always leak. For some reason, emergency exit, cockpit window. And that is also the case on the modern aircraft. You wouldn't believe that. When in heavy rain, you sit in the cockpit and taxi out. Sometimes you need a raincoat or something over your left leg because it's leaking before you get pressure inside and it will tighten up. Center of gravity would also have to be considered because when passengers or visitors came in via the aft door or via the forward entrance door, we must be sure that it doesn't tip sitting on its tail. That must be checked. We have lots of fuel on board this aircraft. I just wonder what Chris thinks about that. Also hydraulic oil, but as long as it is on the air side, I think it's not a problem. It could be later on. And we want that as long as we are at the air side and we are going to start the engines. We have cranked one of the engines, and that was interesting. The starter is electric, and it takes about 1,000 amperes. You can feel it. It's really, really, you can feel the power of it when you push the button and it starts cranking. It's a scary thing. But soon we will light up too, I hope. That will be fun to hear those engines again. And then we'll taxi. Yeah, that is our vision, and we say that all maintenance and repair should be to the manufacturer standard, as if the aircraft was airworthy. And documentation and all actions also documented. We try to plan ahead. What are we missing? What are we going to do? So if someone like Bill Gates comes over and says, I want aircraft in the air. You have $50 million or something. Get it in the air. Then we're ready to fly there. I think there is no Caravelle in the air left. It shouldn't be because the certificate is outdated. It's a French design, yes, and it's very French in some areas. You can, if you have a French car, you know what I mean. The door on the other side, the main entrance door, it slides up like this when you open it. And behind the scenes, there are bicycle chains leading all the way down to the floor and down into to the cellar, where it connects to wires. And those wires, they go all the way to the wing and turns 180 degrees and comes back under the floor and under the door. And there you have rubber amortisseurs, like you have when you have your luggage on your car. So it's very sophisticated construction. It's very sensitive. It has to be adjusted properly. Yeah. Volunteers. We need volunteers. It wouldn't work if we didn't have that. Well, labor is, as I said, mainly provided by a few members of the club. And polishing is on track now. We have got support from the Heritage Board for polishing, so that will be done, I hope. Some future issues, however. There is discussion of a National Civil Aviation Museum in Sweden. If that will be a reality, we have to solve the ownership of this aircraft, or how it would be. I mean, from this horizon, it is a military aircraft, while we try to get it into civil aircraft. So that must be solved in some way. Costs for parking, electricity, we don't want to hear about that. Weather protection. And I think I'll stop with this one. Volunteers are aging much faster than you think. And to recruit new volunteers it's not easy, because young people, they don't think this is interesting. 50 years back in time, I'm not interested. So that's a problem. When we are phasing out, or fading out, I say, this will be a big problem. But that goes for all of us, I think. Yeah, that's it. When we are finished, Ulf and I, it would look like that, we hope. Thank you.